This is North Georgia's News Talk.
WVUN. This girl is on fire.
This weekend, 5 of the top 10 teams in college football were upset, including numbers 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Outside the top 10, number 11, South Carolina, upset by Tennessee. Number 15, Georgia, upset by Vanderbilt. Number 20, Washington, went down as well. It was the perfect weekend to lead into yesterday's release of the season's first BCS poll. The BCS has Alabama, FSU, Oregon as the top 3, with Ohio State and Missouri as 4 and 5. Let me say before we get rolling that we did, in fact, interview Thomas Deku of the Falcons today. However, with everything that went on Friday and Saturday in the high school and college football worlds, we're going to save the interview and talk about the Falcons' second win of the season tomorrow. So tomorrow during Game On, we will bring you our interview with starting free safety Thomas Deku, and we will talk some Falcons football. Joining me in the Monday co-host role, SBNation writer Brent Holloway. Brent, before we get into Georgia losing to a backup quarterback for the second week in a row, and the much maligned targeting rule, I want to invite everyone listening to join tonight's football conversation by calling 770-535-2911. That's 770-535-2911 with your thoughts on what can only be deemed, whether we're talking White County over number 4 North Hall, UCF beating then number 8 Louisville, or the Colts beating the Broncos, a weekend of upsets. So a new rule introduced at the beginning of this college football season was relatively unpopular before, but has come under fire after this weekend. The targeting rule, folks out there listening on AM 550 and FM 102.9, is simply this. Players who target and contact defenseless opponents above the shoulders will be ejected. That is bare bones, paring it down, the rule. The rule addresses concerns about player safety by taking more measure to remove targeting or above-the-shoulder hits on defenseless players. I am on board with the intent of the rule, which is player safety. However, we'll get to why that's a little skewed later, because if you don't hit them high, where do you hit them? You hit them low. I'm on board with the intent of the rule. I can't get on board, though, with its subjectivity, Brent, and I can't get on board with the fact that you can review and remove the ejection, but the 15-yard penalty stands.
There are a ton of problems with this rule, and they were all kind of put into the limelight Saturday, especially during the early games. Every time I was flipping around game to game, and every time you turned around, they're reviewing another targeting penalty.
Yeah.
And few of them I thought were flagrant, malicious hits. And that's the problem with this rule that I have primarily. It leaves no discretion with regard to intent in the hands of the referees, who are, to their credit, just following the letter of the law.
Yeah.
At this point, I might say, throw the letter of the law out the window and let's get back to some football. Because you're right, I do agree something needed to be done. And I've been a defender of Roger Goodell and what he's done in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They've got to pay attention to this issue because players are getting bigger, faster, stronger. Head injuries are becoming more severe. We're learning more about the after effects. So the intent is noble. The execution, the fact that adults, presumably with prior exposure to American tackle football, went into a room and decided this was the way to deal with it, blows my mind.
When you use the word target, I think putting that word into the rule itself, you're using as a verb. When a player targets another player, it makes it malicious. In none of the target calls that I saw this weekend were the hits malicious.
No.
And, of course we have to point to the Georgia game.
Right.
And the 2 targeting calls that were in the Georgia game. The first one on Ray Drew, and I mentioned to you off air before we started this Monday edition of Game On, you want to call roughing the passer on Ray Drew? Okay. Ray Drew comes through the line. The ball leaves the Vanderbilt quarterback's hands. He runs into the Vanderbilt quarterback and pushes off. And, yes, his hands were above shoulder level. He didn't hit him with malintent, though. He wasn't targeting him.
No.
He just made contact with him. Yet Ray Drew thrown from the game.
Yeah, and that's one of those, I'm not even sure where the targeting aspect of this comes into play. This is a play that 10 years ago is not flagged at all.
Right.
2 years ago, yes, it starts to get a flag, and I'm okay with that. I still think it's a little ticky-tacky, But I see the reasoning behind that. You want to protect the quarterbacks, and they are defenseless, but standing back there having just released the ball. But the targeting rule, I thought, and I might be wrong, the explanations we get are scant at best. I thought it was the fact that they bumped heads.
Yeah.
That Ray Drew ran into him, and they bumped heads. So if Ray Drew is 5'10" instead of 6'5", that's not a flag.
No.
That, by definition, is a terrible call. And like I said, when they went to the booth and they came back in like 10 seconds, I was like, okay, well, thank goodness. Common sense has prevailed.
Yes.
We're going to wave this off. No.
Right.
Unbelievable.
And you saw Ray Drew's disbelief as he's going over to the sidelines, and he's like, I just shoved the dude.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't, it wasn't, like someone was running a crossing pattern, a slant down the middle, and just got blindsided.
Yeah.
That he pushed the quarterback. He just pushed him.
And was ejected.
He was ejected from the game.
Ejected from the game, which should be reserved for the most heinous penalty, that you can put on a kid, is throwing him out of the game. And so now it's been reduced to these ticky-tacky little borderline calls where someone happens to make contact with another person's face mask.
Right.
And you're thrown out of the game.
And we'll get to the Rameek Wilson targeting call because it was a bit of a different variety. We'll get to that coming up. But here's the thing, Brent. Offensive players, you're taught when you're running the ball and you're running through other players, what do? You lower your head and you run. You catch the ball. You bring it to your body and you lower your head and you're preparing to get hit.
Right.
So my point is offensive players drop their heads. So you're actually, and football happens so fast, a defensive player can't suddenly stop from hitting someone. Oh, he lowered his head. The targeting rule, I can't hit him now.
Right.
Offensive players lower their head. Football is played at a very, very fast at a very fast pace. So what you're basically saying is every time you're going to hit somebody, you've got to go stomach below.
Really, you really do. You can't even go chest because you're going to bring that head down and you're going to have, contact.
So then what is this bringing up?
Blown
knee
out
injuries.
Knees. Yep.
So if targeting is about player safety.
Well, let's just stop it right there. If any of these rules were really about player safety, there are many more paths they could go to achieve that.
Yeah.
Going to the NFL, they're talking about an 18-game schedule.
Right.
While they're talking about increasing player safety. That is, having both sides of it. Yeah, that's having your cake and eating it too. It makes no sense. This is about protecting an image. Mm-hmm. It's protecting themselves from future lawsuits saying, hey, we did everything we could do. That's what this is about. These kids are a little more than unpaid labor.
Yeah. This past Sunday was the perfect reason why the NFL should not go to an 18-game schedule. Sam Bradford, gone. Mm-hmm. Reggie Wayne, gone. Brian Cushing, gone. And yeah, I mean, it's week 6, week 7 of the season. They're going to play 16 games regardless. So week 7 of an 18-game schedule, yes. But if you add 2 more weeks onto the schedule, and you think about the per Sunday casualty,
right?
You're adding that many more casualties into the season. You
end up with an inferior product,
right? Let's get to this Rameek Wilson hit. The Rameek Wilson hit, if you watch the replay, was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit. Mm-hmm. I know that watching the replay. The referees saw it watching the replay as well. Now, for those of you who didn't watch the Georgia game, Rameek Wilson also called for a target. He targeted a defenseless ball carrier, defenseless receiver, defenseless offensive player. Called for targeting, gets initially ejected, add on to that a 15-yard penalty. That's what the target rule says. They go back, review, decide it was a shoulder-to-shoulder hit, which it was. Shoulder to shoulder.
Textbook. He did exactly what they've been asked to do.
Beautiful hit. They come back. They reinsert him into the game, no longer ejected yet. The 15-yard penalty stands. Now, in that review, after the review, they basically said no foul was committed, yet he was penalized for a foul. How is this possible?
It really does boggle the mind. Like I said, this is a convoluted rule to start with, and we saw everything that was wrong with it, I hope, in the Georgia game. Every aspect that is flawed was put on full display for everyone to point and laugh at. And, this is going to change. Like, it's mentioned by every commentator, by every columnist, by, every broadcaster. They're going to look at this rule in the offseason. Well, they had an offseason. How did we end up with this? Like, I really just, I don't understand how, it went into review with, in all seriousness, these are intelligent people who are in, positions of authority and responsibility.
Right. We hope.
They rose to that position somehow or another. And this is the best they could come up with. And then it goes into a review process, and it still seems to pass the muster to these people.
Right.
I cannot get over it. I can't wait till next year when this BCS nonsense is no more. This targeting rule has been fixed. Whatever they come up with next year, it can't be worse than what we've got right now.
I'm just floored by how a penalty can still be a penalty when the penalty was disregarded. It was thrown out.
Yeah.
Yet you're still penalized. Uh-huh. That makes no sense. And granted, the Saturday,
I saw it
affected Georgia.
I saw a really good tweet on this. I just thought of, and I don't remember who put it out. There was a lot of targeting talk on the Twitters.
Yes, there was.
Saturday. It's kind of the equivalent of you've been charged with aggravated assault. We're going to, sentence you to 30 years. Oh, wait, here's some videotape that proves that you are innocent, but you still got to go to jail.
Right. We're still going to send you to jail.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, unfortunately for Georgia, the call on Ramik Wilson wound up hurting them in more than just losing a player or more than the other team just getting a first down. It sustained a drive for Vanderbilt. That was a fourth down play.
Yeah, that was huge.
That Ramik Wilson had made to break up that pass. And it sustained a Vanderbilt drive. Vanderbilt goes on to score, and really what was the game-deciding score. Now, there are other things that hurt Georgia. And if you think for 1 second we're not going to get to that during this edition of Game On, you're crazy. Brent and I actually have a lot more to talk about. When we come back, though, we're going to give away tickets to a very spooky ghost walk coming up this Friday that you're not going to want to miss. And also, there were upsets in high school football, too, folks, and we'll get to those. Come on back and join us on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Governor Nathan Deal announced today that King's Hawaiian Bakery and Distribution Company will expand operations in Oakwood. Details at accessnorthga.com and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN.
Okay, it's time to switch banks. I'm looking for a bank that will appreciate my business every day and not just the day I open my account.
Sound familiar? United Community Bank believes it's a privilege to serve each customer. Give us the opportunity to serve you, and we'll make sure switching banks is as easy as possible. And best of all, next week, next month, and next year, you'll feel as appreciated as the first day you walked in our doors. United Community Bank, the bank that's service built.
Are you a woman over 40? Do you want to lose weight and body fat? Does it seem harder than ever to lose weight? Do you ever experience hot flashes or have trouble falling asleep? You're not alone, and it's not your fault. Stubborn weight gain, hot flashes, and sleeplessness are common symptoms of menopause. But here's some great news about two great products. Amberen can help you balance hormones and relieve your hot flashes, sleeplessness, irritability, and other symptoms of menopause. And you can finally lose weight. Yes, even that stubborn body fat with Amberen Weight Loss, a powerful new product that'll help you get the results you want. Call now and ask how you can receive a free sample of Amberen Weight Loss and start losing weight. Just call 1-800-226-3216. You can finally lose the weight and all those other awful menopause symptoms. But you must call now. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. To claim your complimentary free sample, call right now at 1-800-226-3216. That's 1-800-226-3216.
I'm so glad we left that stupid party.
No joke.
Hey, baby, are you an overdue library book? Because you got fine written all over you.
Ugh, barf.
What about that girl with the hoop earrings?
Ridiculous. When she was dancing...
Megan, look out, look out!
Oh my God, Becky. Becky, are you okay?
My arm. I think it's broken.
Can you bend it?
It's already bent in the wrong direction.
I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Really? Just buzzed?
Yeah, I swear.
Well, in that case, my arm is fine. Ah, that's better.
You're really okay? You're serious, Becky?
No, genius. I'm not serious.
Ow! My arm, it hurts.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
Taking local to a whole new level.
Listen, we appreciate you guys doing this for us. It keeps us in touch because I like to hear everything that's going on and stay in touch. Now it's just right at my fingertip.
The new free app presented by the Norton Agency. Access WDUN.
Don't forget, folks, to go like us on Facebook. Game On with Katie B. Davis, the name of the page. We've just posted highlights of the White County North Hall game. Also, Twitter is where it's at. You can follow me and thusly the show, handle KTB Davis. Brent is also on Twitter. The B. Holloway is where you'll find him. Before we give away the tickets to the 2013 Ghost Walk, I know a lot of you out there, after Brent and I got done talking about the targeting rule, we're wondering, well, what did Mark Richt have to say after the two bogus calls in the Georgia-Vanderbilt game? Here's what he had to say after the game.
I promised myself I wouldn't say anything horrendous about the officiating today, so I'm not going to do that.
In saying he wasn't going to say anything horrendous about the officiating today, he said the officiating was horrendous today. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very tactful way of saying we got jobbed.
Yeah. And he said it twice more in his post-game press conference because they kept trying to get him to say something horrendous about the officiating, and all he would say was that he wasn't going to say anything horrendous about the officiating. That soundbite was said 3 times total in Mark Richt's press conference. He used the exact same words in the exact same order each time. And I think very noble of him to, in a very passive-aggressive way, say the calls were horrible, and they cost us the game, in part. We'll get to the other part coming up in the next half hour. Trust me on that, folks. We are going to talk Georgia football. We want you to join in anytime you want to. 770-535-2911. There's a walking tour going on around here beginning at 6 nightly this Friday on Brunel's campus. Did you know that there are legendary spirits all around Brunel's campus? Reportedly, there was a pool at Pierce Auditorium somewhere around there, and someone hung themselves at the pool and now haunts Pierce Auditorium.
I don't mean to be crass about this, but if you're going to kill yourself at a pool, why not take the easy way out and just drown yourself?
Well, because hanging actually takes I can't believe we're talking about this. Hanging actually takes a shorter amount of time than drowning.
You learn something new every day on Game On,
I'm just saying.
Well, these were college students, we presume, right?
Yes, but I'm just saying, you're going to suffer whilst drowning. When you hang yourself, you just fall and it's done.
I was about to refute that, but I don't have any personal experience or I haven't spoken to anyone who's done
I don't either.
Yeah.
I have no personal experience, thank the Lord, in that realm. I'm just off the top of my head. We want to give away a pair of tickets to this Friday night's Northeast Georgia History Center Ghost Walk. Walks begin at 6, 6:20, 6:40, 7, 7:20, and 7:40, and they're held even if it rains, and I would think better if it rains because that is spookier. Again, these are walking tours around the Brunel campus, and we want to give 2 tickets away. Now, children under 10 years are not permitted on the walks. The reason they are actually very scary, and they talk about the ghosts haunting Gainesville. This, again, is for this Friday. 2 tickets. We're going to look for the 5th caller, 770-535-2911. 770-535-2911. Keep in mind that each walk is approximately 2 hours long, and these tickets are for this Friday. We want to spook you out. That's what we like to do here on Game On and at WDUN. In the meantime, in between time, folks, a huge high school football game happened in Cleveland last Friday night between the White County Warriors and the number 4 North Hall Trojans.
Take the pitch. Vanderbilt rolling to his left. Flushed out of the pocket. Just about tackle the backfield. Still loose. Throws toward the end zone. Jump up, and I think it's caught. Touchdown, White County. What a catch. Jumping up and making it Dalton Whitfield.
Judd Higginbotham with the call on FM 102.9. White County beats the number 4 ranked team in Class AAA 21-7. Brent, I think we can both safely say we didn't see this one coming.
Absolutely not. I think we talked about it either on this show or on the high school football roundtable, one of the times when we get together in this room and talk about high
sports.
School football. We thought that it could be a good game. We thought that White County had the defense to make this interesting. But as far as, taking it the whole way and shutting down this, prolific running game from North Hall, no way. Did not see that coming.
White County, really a Buford-esque defensive performance.
Yeah.
And everyone who pays attention to high school football understands what I'm saying when I say that. Buford giving up about 4 points per game this season as a whole. And what White County was able to do in stifling North Hall's running attack, Buford-esque. Holding them to 7 points. Andrew Smith had more than 100 yards rushing. Zach Little had more than 100 yards rushing. Now, North Hall still had more than 220 yards rushing as a team, but this is a team that's putting up 400-plus of total offense, 300-plus rushing, and they're getting into the end zone a lot, averaging better than 40 points per game, held to just 7. Interesting how White County was able to do this, bringing a person usually limited to their secondary, and Will Flowers, a very talented player in the defensive backfield for the White County Warriors. They brought him up and stacked the box, and they did it the entire game. I used the word gimmick. I was refuted on that, but I look at it as they did something special, like a basketball team would put out a triangle and two, a box and one, to nullify a particular player or two particular players. Basically, White County did that Friday night.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't think it's a gimmick either. It's just common sense smart.
Right.
There's one thing that we cannot let North Hall beat us on, and it's the run. If they're going to, air it out and do something they haven't done, we've seen on film, then, more power to them. But we're going to stop what they do best. And I think that's what they set out to do. That's what they did. And, I thought it was really interesting that they didn't just rely on turnovers or, big special teams plays. They got them off the field on fourth down. They made big stops. That's really, really impressive. That's just man-to-man, hard-nosed, who's going to win at the line of scrimmage, and White County came out on top.
And then we're able to score on North Hall, and their first offensive possession did to North Hall what North Hall's done to so many teams and will continue to do to teams this season. They break off an 80-yard run.
Yep.
Coley Loudermilk takes it to the house from 80 yards out. An unbelievable performance by the Warriors. It's funny, though, that you say it's just common sense defense, and I think, well, then why haven't other teams done it? Why is White County the first team to stack the box, to bring an extra linebacker in and try to stop the run?
I think other teams have tried it. They just haven't been successful.
Right.
I think White County may be the most physical team that they've seen all year. Definitely the most physical team they've seen since Chestatee.
Right.
But that's what surprises me, and we don't know exactly how much better Chestatee has gotten since that first week, but the fact that North Hall was able to put up 33 points on them, I'm like, okay, this offense is ready to go.
Yeah.
They have seen a good defense. They've succeeded against it. They'll be able to handle White County, but clearly White County was a little bit tougher on D than we expected.
I tell you, I was shocked. I was shocked at how great White County played, but more than anything, I was shocked that they were able to stop North Hall. And hear what I'm saying, folks. Hear what I'm saying to you. They stopped them. The credit goes to White County here. Did North Hall have a less than great game? Probably. Probably they did. Bob Christmas would be the first to tell you that. But dadgummit, White County stopped them. And it was fun to listen to, and it was a fun game to be a part of. Again, it was on FM 102.9. Congratulations to Michael Smith of Gainesville, who won the 2 tickets. Matthew Smith of Gainesville. Reading is real bad today. Matthew Smith of Gainesville, who won the 2 tickets to the Ghost Tour. When Game On returns, do changes need to be made in Athens? And I'm not talking benching players. Brent and I will weigh in when we come back.
It's Bill and Joel of WDUN Morning News with today's survey question. Do you agree with the organizations pushing for higher wages for fast food workers?
Let us know by logging on at accessnorthga.com. Powered by North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. And download our free app, Access WDUN. Presented by the Norton Agency.
WDUN Gainesville. WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville.
It's 7:30.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lisa Lacera. A deadly shooting at a middle school in Sparks, Nevada near Reno. What happened before class this morning?
They say a math teacher at the school saw the boy with the gun and tried to intervene, but Reno Deputy Chief Tom Robinson says he was shot.
My personal belief is that is the case, but again, we got video we got to review, people we got to talk to, but my estimation, he's a hero.
When they arrived, they found the teacher and the suspect, who was also a student, dead. The shooter's wound was possibly self-inflicted, since police say they did not open fire.
Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal. Family members identified the teacher as Michael Lansbury. 2 others were hurt. President Obama pledging to fix the problems with the healthcare sign-up website.
Backed by a few people who'd successfully navigated Obamacare's online sign-up process, the president promised the many thousands more who'd been stymied by the website, the problems will be fixed.
Fox's Wendell Goler. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Local and live. This is WDUN News.
From the WDUN Milton Merton Honda 24-hour newsroom, I'm Allison Shields. The Supreme Court of Georgia rules in favor of a man who successfully had a permanent protective order against him terminated in Habersham County. William Roderick Lovell's ex-girlfriend and mother of his child had appealed the termination to the state's high court. In a unanimous ruling today, the high court ruled that such orders can be subject to modification if there's been substantial change in circumstances. The initial termination of the order came in 2011 when the trial court found that the couple was divorced and neither had custody of the couple's children. The Georgia Supreme Court reverses the prison sentence and the conviction of a former South Georgia police officer. Matt Cook reports the officer was convicted of solicitation of sodomy charges.
James Watson was arrested in 2009 after exchanging some suggestive messages with a 17-year-old. He was a police officer with the city of Nashville in Berrien County at the time. He was convicted back in 2011 and was given 2 years to serve. The state's high court overturned the case, saying that the evidence in the case did not meet the definition of the crime. It was not to be performed in public in exchange for money, by force, or by someone incapable of consenting.
Police in the Cherokee County town of Ballground are offering a $1,000 reward for the arrest of whoever stole a scarecrow portraying Uncle Cy Robertson from TV's Duck Dynasty. The scarecrow went missing between Wednesday night and Thursday morning. There's more WDUN news at accessnorthga.com. Now here's the WDUN AccuWeather forecast.
Tonight's low 43 to 49, mostly cloudy skies, clouds mixing in with some sunshine. Tuesday high 68 to 74, clear skies seen Tuesday evening. For AccuWeather.com, I'm Michael Stack.
It's 62 in Beaufort, in Cornelia, 58 and 60 in Gainesville. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9, WDUN.
This is Debbie Lawson Davis. My father started Lawson Air Conditioning and Plumbing in 1946. Now, serving our customers with excellence is still our number one goal. You never get a machine when you call us. 24-hour service, even on holidays. For experienced customer service, turn to the experts. Carrier and Lawson Air Conditioning and Plumbing, Hall County's only Carrier factory authorized dealer. Our family serving your family in all of Northeast Georgia since 1946.
For 20 years, Play It Again Sports has been dedicated to supplying all of North Georgia with the equipment, knowledge, and value to satisfy your fitness and sporting goods needs without breaking your budget. Their unique concept of buying, trading, and consigning both new and used sports and fitness equipment helps you to really stretch your hard-earned dollars without compromising on quality. Stop by Play It Again Sports today and meet their friendly and knowledgeable staff. Get your game on at Play It Again Sports on Dawsonville Highway in Gainesville.
This is North Georgia's News Talk.
WDUN.
You just heard in that very well done spot about Play It Again Sports. They've been serving Gainesville and the surrounding communities for 20 years. Located on Dawsonville Highway between Home Depot and the Olive Garden. They have everything you need to live the sporting life. Each and every Friday during the Burger King Tailgate Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. It begins at 6 as a kickoff to our Friday game night coverage. We give away a $25 gift card to Play It Again Sports. From fitness equipment to bats to helmets to shoulder pads, anything you need, Play It Again Sports has. We also give away a cookie cake, care of Great American Cookies in Lakeshore Mall, to our Great American Cookie Fan of the Week. Again, both those giveaways happen during the Burger King Tailgate Show, beginning at 6 on Fridays on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. So we thought last Saturday was bad if you're a Georgia Bulldogs fan, but I think that it pales in comparison to this Saturday and the loss that Georgia incurred, if you will, to Vanderbilt. 31-27, the Bulldogs fall to the Commodores in Nashville. And really, we want to talk about the game, but from this perspective and in this context. With this loss and with the way that Georgia has performed post-LSU win, do changes need to be made in Athens? And if so, what should those changes be? I think it's a very knee-jerk and emotional response by Georgia fans anytime there's a loss to say, Mark Richt needs to be fired. No, he doesn't. You need to look deeper. And that's what we're going to do here on Game On. And if you want to join in, 770-535-2911, the way to do it. But do changes need to be made in Athens? And if so, what do those changes need to be?
That's a really hard question to answer after a game in which you failed in every facet.
Yeah. Every facet. Special teams, defense, offense. Every facet.
Uh-huh. There's no wrong answer when you ask what went wrong.
Yeah.
Everything went wrong. And, before we get off of Mark Richt, because I think you're right, I don't think firing him is the right answer, but I will say this. There was one head coach on the sidelines that Texas and USC are going to be fighting over after the season, and he wasn't wearing red and black.
No, he was not. Coach Franklin.
Yes, he is an impressive guy, and I do think that Georgia got out-coached, and that's not a rare occurrence these days, sad to say. However, having been through the repeated gut punches that are a coaching search, if you've got something that's working relatively well, you're better to just tweak than you are to overhaul, and I think that's where Georgia is right now. I think tweaks are the answer. Now, as far as what those are, we talked last week about I didn't think that Todd Grantham was above reproach, and every Saturday kind of drives that point home for me. I've been impressed with his defense 1 year out of his fourth now.
Yeah.
And, this year you're going to have bumps in the road. There's so much youth out there. But coming on the heels of what I thought was a disappointing season for that defense, I thought that defense should have been Alabama level last year. We talked about it last week, and it was not. And we're just seeing another season where the defense is what's holding them back overall. Like I said, Saturday you throw a dart at a board, and it's going to land on something that went wrong for Georgia. But yes, I don't know what the right answer is, but yeah, tweaks I think are need to be made.
And I think you saying tweaks hits the nail on the head, and we'll get to that a little more in depth coming up. But first, we've got a caller online with us. Caller, state your name, location, and then tell us what you want to say.
Michael from Gainesville.
Hey, Michael, welcome to Game On. Thanks for listening, and thanks for joining us. What say you?
Well, I was calling to just give you a little bit of what I think about what's going on in Athens. And I really believe, with what we have to deal with, if you look at what we've got from an offensive standpoint, we're dealing with what we have left, a quarterback and a tight end at the beginning of the season. You got no running backs. You got no wide receivers. And I think everything really depends on how the offense plays. If the offense is not playing at their game, I think the defense follows. The leadership comes from that offensive side and Aaron Murray. And, look what Aaron Murray's had to give with it this year as far as his offensive threats, and everybody's gone. And he's still putting up numbers other than this last weekend.
Michael, I agree with you, but I'll say this, too. From a leadership perspective in Athens, and we appreciate you calling, Michael, and we appreciate your insight. From a leadership perspective in Athens, when you have injuries befall your team, and the injuries of the magnitude that Georgia had, where Gurley goes down and Marshall goes down and Michael Bennett goes down and Justin Scott Wesley goes down, when you have those type of injuries, you have to be able to dial something else up. You have to get creative, and the creativity has been lacking. Michael, we still have Aaron Murray. You're saying, well, he's all that left, and I'm saying we still have him. So why are we trying to base our offense with a run with two freshman running backs, Brandon Douglas and J.J. Green, when we've still got Aaron Murray and still have Chris Conley, who's a very good wide receiver? still have Chris Conley.
Although Conley is questionable right now for the Florida game coming up.
He is questionable for the Florida game, but Mark Richt in a press conference today said he's sure he will be back on the field for the Florida game, but right now questionable just because he's still dealing with the injury sustained yesterday. We want to welcome in another caller on line 2 to Game On. State your name, state your location, and then tell us what you have to say about the Georgia Bulldogs.
Randy, and I'm from Gainesville. I know you don't want to take and just, throw out the pail out the window with the water, but you kind of got to think about it. Georgia, most overrated, underachieving team the last few years. They get 4- and 5-star players all the time, and I know there's people out there that's injured, but you got 85 scholarship players down there, and they're dependent on 4 or 5. I'm sure the other 75 scholarship players are not all guards and tackles. I don't think
Randy.
I don't think the coaching is up to par to what everybody expects Georgia to be. Love Mark Richt to death. Think the world of him. But maybe the staff that he hires just don't have it, and he needs to take and replace his staff.
Randy, you are absolutely right. We appreciate you calling in, and we appreciate your commentary. You're absolutely right. And those were the tweaks that Brent was talking about. The tweaks, and that maybe Todd Grantham's position needs to either he needs to be out of it or it needs to be rearranged a little bit. And maybe Mike Bobo with the offensive play. He is an incredible recruiter. He is not a great offensive play caller. So maybe you need to tweak a little bit.
Or even, for once, hiring a special teams coordinator to oversee the special teams instead of Mark Richt having his hand overseeing everything. That would be a huge step up because that has been very costly this season as well.
Well, and we think that would be a huge step up. The special teams coordinator can't go on the field and snap the ball.
Right.
And he can't go on the field and catch a snap. But I also want to address quickly something else Randy said. The players that are being brought in are not being cultivated. Mm-hmm. They're not being cultivated for college football championships. They maybe are being cultivated to be a first-round pick, which is an individual thing. But they are not being cultivated to create a team that wins championships.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you brought up with the creativity on offense. There are players, at least we think there are, we don't get a chance to see. Arthur Lynch, Jay Rome. There are many offenses in the SEC and across the country that would kill to have this type of target in their offense, and they are so woefully underutilized.
Right.
I don't understand that. It's one thing when you've got, as many receivers and, running backs as Georgia started the year off with. At this point, though, those are some of your more proven guys, or at least you're more experienced, and you're just not getting them involved. And that, that really doesn't make sense to me. And even if the receivers that are left, God bless their few souls. I think Rontavious Wooten can be a player if you get him involved in the right ways. I think that the young kid, Reggie Davis, he can be a player. And they're just not finding other ways to get them involved. And I understand that some of that has to do with, you've got to get on the same page with your quarterback, and that doesn't happen overnight. But there's just too much talent, even with the injuries. And another thing I wanted to bring up is injuries are hitting a lot of teams. Vanderbilt played without their starting quarterback.
So did Missouri.
A lot of teams are going through injuries. Not as many, I'll grant you that, as what Georgia's dealing with. But that is where you have got to get creative.
Yeah.
You've got to find ways to deploy your resources in the right way, and running, J.J. Green up the middle 13 times ain't the right way.
And, Brent, though, that goes back to play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, injuries, the injury bug, you're absolutely right. It's bitten every team in some capacity. And even, we look at the Falcons. Falcons are playing without their top 2 wide receiver. They're playing without Steven Jackson. They're playing without Croy Bierman. They're playing without an offensive. What offensive lineman was it that they're playing without Brady Ewing, their starting fullback? They're still winning. I'm tired of injuries being used as an excuse for Georgia. And here's the thing: the injury bug hadn't bitten the defense, with the exception of Josh Harvey-Clemens yesterday. And we hope he's okay. You can't use injuries as an excuse for your defense. Now, back to the creativity, and this speaks to what Michael of Gainesville was saying earlier. And again, we appreciate him calling and listening. Big guns are hurt on offense. I get it. Big guns are hurt. Aaron Murray isn't, though. Aaron Murray not hurt. You can't control whether or not players catch passes, but you can control whether or not you throw it to them in the first place. And we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We put a little too much on Brandon Douglas's shoulders. Now, should he have fumbled? No, you never. But he was hit perfectly.
Right.
Mark Richt said post-game, he's got great habits. He's got great ball security habits. I'm sure Vanderbilt just hit him where he needed to be hit, and they absolutely did. All the credit to Vanderbilt. The loss isn't on Brandon Douglas.
I agree.
But you've got Aaron Murray at quarterback. Why are you running two freshmen 30 times during the game?
114 yards passing. I can't get my head around that.
No.
Now, he did not look comfortable. I'll say I thought that Vanderbilt did a good job of scheming for what Georgia had shown them on film, which is, again, I go back to Georgia. Why don't you do something different? Why don't you come up with a fresh
creativity
game plan? Exactly. And I mean,
something, yes.
You hear coaches talk about the teams that are hard to prepare for, and there are the teams that show you something different, just little wrinkles, just new tendencies that, you weren't necessarily prepared for that make you adjust on the fly. And I don't see a lot of that out of Georgia. I thought that in the LSU game there was a really nice chess match going back and forth in that game. So it's not that Bobo just has absolutely no idea. It's just that he goes into a shell sometimes. And we're sitting here lumping it all on Bobo. We don't know how much he is told. Hey, let's keep this under wraps. Let's play this conservative.
Absolutely.
We're not in those meeting rooms, so we can't decide who gets what share of the blame. We can just say that the product that we're seeing ain't what it should be.
No, and it is conservative.
Mm-hmm.
It is conservative. It's vanilla. And I think the most frustrating thing, Brent, is knowing what Georgia can do.
Right.
And you even saw it against Clemson. Knowing what Georgia is capable of. And the fact that they don't produce it against Vanderbilt. Aaron Murray against Tennessee had that 70-plus yard run on a designed run play. You tell me the most unlikely quarterback candidate other than A.J. McCarron and Zach Mettenberger who would have a designed run play for him. That was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that Saturday? Where was it last week against Missouri? It is quite frustrating for everything to be so vanilla, to be so conservative. When you are, and Randy from Gainesville said it, bringing in 4 or 5-star recruits, bringing in the best talent. We've got top 5 recruiting classes year in, year out.
Mm-hmm.
The talent's there. It's not being cultivated. I don't know who's to blame for that. I'm not going to jump on the blame Mark Richt bandwagon. I'm not going to do it.
The thing I would say about that is what I noticed as an outsider watching Georgia teams is that, teams tend to take on the personality of their coaches oftentimes, and I don't see Georgia often playing with a great sense of urgency.
Yeah.
They're cool, they're calm, but there's not that fire. Right. And I know that was a big issue with people wanting to see that out of Richt a few years back. And and I think it's, there's a good and a bad that comes with Richt. I think, like I said, I'm a proponent of keeping that guy around because he's proven what he can do. He's stable, and, you really can't overvalue that. That said, he's not a perfect coach. He's not Nick Saban.
No.
He's not at that tier. So, you can quibble about it, but I do think that he can make improvements, and he's such a loyal guy. I don't know if he'll be the guy to pull the trigger and make those improvements, but they've got to do something. They've got to, Aaron Murray is still one of the best quarterbacks in the country, definitely one of the best in the conference. Take the shackles off, man. Let him air it out.
Open it up.
You've got guys that can catch the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not be dynamic after the catch like Malcolm Mitchell would be, but they can catch that 7-yard slant and move the chains.
Right.
You've got those 2 tight ends who I still think are 2 of the better tight end, just physically, and based on what they were as recruits and the tape that we've seen on them in high school, we know they're good athletes.
Yeah.
Use them. Run the 2 tight end set, run a couple of receivers. Go no huddle, a la the Patriots when they had the dynamic tight end duo. You can go with that personnel, run an up-tempo offense, air it out, and then on a dime switch to a power running game when you get inside the 20 if that's what you want to do.
And it'll work.
I think it will.
Georgia's shown that J.J. Green and Brandon Douglas can run the ball, but they shouldn't be charged with the offense being predicated on them being able to run the ball.
I think... this is a name a lot of people around here don't want to don't want to hear. But if you look at the way Bobby Petrino ran his offenses at Arkansas, that's what it was. It was a wide-open spread offense until we got the lead, and now we're going to run it down your throat. And that part of the game is often overlooked because it's all considered, flash and pizzazz and passing game. But I still think with Brandon, I'm a big fan of the Douglas kid.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And I think he can be a great complement to Aaron Murray, but you've just got to, you can't run the same offense that you were running with Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall because the two backs that you have now are not that.
Yeah, creativity. Run a screen pass now and then, but not every second down. Run it up the middle, but not every first down. Run a tall sweep, but not every third down. And please, for the love, stop running draw plays on 3rd and 3.
I was wondering if we were going to get to the draw.
Please stop running draw plays on 3rd and short because you're adding yardage to your 3rd and short. I sit behind a mic. I'm a Monday morning quarterback. That's fine. But it's just something for the listeners to think about.
I was having this conversation last weekend, and I was defending Bobo, actually, at the time, and Mark Richt. And the guy just stopped and said, okay, it's 3rd and medium. What are we going to run?
And you could name it.
I said a draw play, and he won the argument right there because if I know it, you can bet that every defensive coordinator in the country has said, in prep, we get into this situation, here's their tendencies, 75% of the time they're running to this side. If the tight end's on this side, that's where they're going. All of that is mapped out. And if we can sit there just watching the games on Saturday afternoon on the couch and pick up on those tendencies, just imagine what the spreadsheets will tell you.
I swear, any of my friends who have watched Georgia play football in the last couple of weeks with me that are listening to Game On right now will say, you took the words right out of my mouth. If I know what's going on, I guarantee you, defensive coordinators know. And I guarantee you, players on the field know. And he said it, and he actually played football. If I know people never could step foot on a football field unless I was carrying water to my dad's players, if I know that you're going to run a draw play on 3rd and 3, then I'm guessing Vandy's D coordinator did too. We got to take a short break here, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk the BCS standings. The first ones came out yesterday, and there's already some hubbub about the top 5. We'll get to it. Come back and join us.
From the WDUN Milton Martin Honda 24-hour newsroom, a 47-year-old man was shot by a deputy this morning in Habersham County after he pulled a gun on another deputy. Details at accessnorthga.com and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN.
Inspired, original, that's the MKZ. Test drive the refreshingly new 2013 Lincoln MKZ today at Jackie Jones Lincoln. Special features include Lincoln Drive Control, retractable panoramic glass roof, push-button shift, a new EcoBoost engine, and much more. Check out all the special offers and incentives at Jackie Jones Lincoln on Brownsbridge Road in Gainesville. Inspired, original, that's the MKZ. That's also Jackie Jones Lincoln. Find out how they can put you behind the wheel of the new 2013 Lincoln MKZ today. Jackie Jones Lincoln, Brownsbridge Road, Gainesville.
Tell us what's bugging you, and you could win big from Compromise Pest Control. Log on to WDUN.com for details. Then send us a photo of what's bugging you for your chance to win from North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN.
We don't want to belabor the point about Georgia. But I do have one more thing that I want to say. And again, we appreciate our callers who dialed us up to vent about Georgia as well or give their insider perspective. Todd Grantham's defense showed signs of life Saturday. Shaq Wiggins with the pick 6. It was nice to see. But where's the licking of the chops when the second-string quarterback comes in? Where's the dial-up? Where is it? In so much as he's seen as a fiery coordinator, not dialing it up when the backup comes in, a little conservative too, a little vanilla too. So, I think even if we lose out the rest of the season, I want to see that passion. I want to see the passion in the Georgia Bulldogs that got them a 15-yard penalty at Florida for celebrating on the field en masse. You want to see that passion, that fire, that want to. And I want to see them air it out. Dadgummit, you still have Aaron Murray. Let him sling it because he can. He's going to make smart decisions. He's a fifth-year senior. And how do you know if the guys can't catch it if you never give them a chance to? Quit being afraid. Open it up. Let's move on now to the BCS standings. First standings came out yesterday. And Alabama won, which, no. 2 was Florida State, 3 Oregon, 4 Ohio State, 5 Missouri. And first and foremost, and we've got about 5 minutes left in the show. First and foremost, I want your thoughts on Missouri being 5 in the BCS standings.
We talked about this before we went on air, and does anybody really think that the 5th best team in the country is Missouri?
I don't.
I don't really think they do, but at the same time, who else are you going to put there?
Yeah.
They've earned it, and I think it's just indicative of this overall season in college football. How many teams really, really impress you? I think there's 3. I think it's Alabama, I think it's Oregon, and I think it's Florida State. Everybody else is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it filters all the way down to the SEC. How many teams really impress you in the SEC this year? It's 1, and then it's a bunch of pretty good teams, and then there's 3 bad ones.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is this year. It's one of those seasons, and I was kind of down on the SEC not being the dominant conference that it has been. I still think it's the best. I still think it's the deepest. But, I'm seeing, and the last couple of weeks have kind of opened my eyes to the fact that it's not just the SEC, it's just college football this year. There's a lot of parity.
Right. And that I believe that to be cyclical in college football as well. In so much, in the same vein, we're seeing these high-powered offenses and really a lack of defense being played. That's something that's cyclical as well. Oregon fans have gone to the message boards a bit incensed. The Ducks are 3 and FSU is 2. To me, it's a coin flip, and I say this because of one thing, really, strength of schedule. Neither team has played really good teams. Neither team will play really good teams, with the exception of Oregon has played a ranked team in Washington that they beat 45-24, and we saw the absolute demolition derby that was FSU versus Clemson, who was number 3 at the time that FSU beat them this past Saturday. Both offensively dominant. They have defense good enough to allow for large margins of victory. Do you have issue with FSU being 2, with Oregon being 3?
Not right now. I do think it'll work itself out, and a lot of it, though, depends on what happens in the Pac-12. Because you look at Oregon's schedule, you've got UCLA, top 25 team, but has shown that they're far from the top 10 team that they were previously ranked as. Stanford, who is a number 6 team, but just from watching them, I don't think they're the Stanford of last year.
No.
And you've got Oregon State, who is kind of sneaky good, top 25, very dynamic passing game. So they've got chances to boost their strength of schedule, and they're number 2 in both major polls. So they got a chance to move up and take over that slot. And I do think they are the number 2 team right now. I think you can make an argument they're number 1. Just watching them play, there's really no way you can argue that team's not legitimate. I mean, they're able to name their score.
Yeah, offensively, defensively. They dominated Clemson. Clemson with a very high-powered offense with a senior starter running that offense with one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country, and Sammy Watkins running routes for that senior quarterback. Taj Boyd has had an unbelievable season until last Saturday. He was a Heisman hopeful. Still is, but he's dropped a little bit. Jameis Winston, however, has skyrocketed to the top of the Heisman debate, to the Heisman talk. Do you see him winning it?
If we come down to an Alabama FSU national championship game,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
That'd be fun.
I think it would be a lot of fun. And any of those top 3 teams matching up against each other, especially seeing one of them take on King of the Mountain, Alabama, I think would be we've been asking for that Oregon-Alabama game for how many years now?
Yeah.
Any of that would be fun. I do think he is, Saturday night was kind of his Heisman moment.
Yeah.
He got the stage on the road, 400-plus yards. And he's kind of been building to that. There's been, no chinks in his armor so far.
I don't know that there are going to be many to come. What a fun weekend of high school and college football. Tomorrow, folks, on Game On, we're going to talk Falcons. We're going to talk pro football. And we're going to bring you our conversation with starting free safety Thomas DeCoux. Why don't you join us for that from 7 to 8 on AM 550 and FM 102.9. Game On.
She's just a girl, but she's on fire.
WDUN Gainesville, WDUN